Hey everybody, how's it going? Wow. Well, I have pretty much had it with Facebook today. I've been trying to go live for probably like the last 20, 30 minutes now, and Facebook doesn't seem to want to connect to my broadcasting software, so it's making me feel a little bit iffy about this Saturday's episode because I definitely don't want to push that one out again. But anyway, so it's Thursday. It's time for After Dark podcast. Well, it's just me today, guys. Sarah's not with me. None of the other groups with me. I just wanted to pop in, kind of do a brief update on things going on. But if that's disappointing to you, don't worry, because it's a 2 episode week, so that's pretty awesome. This actually isn't even going to be the main episode. Saturday, we've got Rose Domain coming into the studio with Allie and Sarah, and she's going to be doing free readings for you guys. And I think I have finally figured out how to work that scenario. I'm going to have a temporary number that you can text to basically get into the queue for being up next on the reading. And when you're up next, I'll basically call you back at that number and patch you into the show. And you'll be able to have a face-to-face with Rose, who will do a reading for you, and you can ask questions and get some advice from her. And we'll just keep it going that way. And plus, I'll be doing an interview with her. Me and Sarah will be doing an interview with her, asking her questions about everything she does, all the services she offers, all the good things like that. Anything you would want to know about a New Orleans voodoo witch who does readings. And so that's going to be a lot of fun. We've known her for a little while. We actually met her in Tyler last year when we were doing the Paracon out there. And even though we're a super science based group, we're just a research team. We were getting asked all the time, after doing different investigations and things like that, if we knew anybody that could do removals and stuff like that. And of course, we don't do that. We just do the research. And so when we went out there, we actually interviewed and talked to a bunch of different like psychic mediums, people that said they did spirit removals, things like that. And out of all of them, she seemed to be the most legit. And so we kind of developed a relationship with her and have recommended her to people a lot who have wanted removals and things like that. So, naturally, we're going to have her on the show so you guys can meet her. But I'm going to save most of my talking about her for when she's actually here and can defend herself, So that sort of thing. And she's cool. We pick on each other. But mainly what I want to talk about is, if you guys didn't know, I'm an author. One of the books you guys probably know about, that's our the After Dark Paranormal Investigations book, which was actually a team effort on writing it. I'm not the only author on it. I had the rest of the team help me out, co-author the whole thing, meaning Kristen helped me do a lot of the actual writing for a couple of the chapters. And then Allie and Sarah sat down with me and basically dictated their stories from their perspective, and we banged it out. We wrote it out. I think it's a really good book. I think it's a really honest look at our investigations and things like that. I also talk a lot about the science behind what we do. Some of my theories, which one of the theories that's in here about EMFs is already a little bit outdated. I've already, since publishing this book, have kind of moved away. Well, not moved away, but I have a better understanding of the data that we were collecting at the time when I wrote the book. And so the theories that I put forth on how EMF is connected to paranormal activity and paranormal research has kind of evolved since the book was published, and that's within the course of a year, because we published this at the beginning of 2018. And so it's a really good book, and I already know how I want to improve when we release the second one, because we plan on doing it as a series, but we want to let some time pass. But I'm bringing it up because if you guys weren't aware, it's of course it's the paperback, and then you can get it on Kindle. But now you can actually get it as an audiobook, either through Audible, iTunes, or Amazon. And so it's available as an audiobook now. And Kelly McCormick is the narrator for it, and she does an excellent job. She did a great job on the production for it, and the delivery is just really good. Seeing as how I wrote it and had to sit through it and edit it and go through it over and over and over again, you can imagine for me, for the team, it's a little hard for us to like just sit there and reread it over, because we know what's in it. But when I actually reviewed the audio, when Kelly was sending me the audio for it, her delivery of it was entertaining enough that it felt fresh and new to me, and I could sit and listen to it again. And it was just really surreal to hear my writing read back to me in that way. And I think it's really good. And so people who have a hard time sitting down reading a book, or just want to hear it like while they're driving or something like that, or maybe they have a hard time reading, they can't see the page. That's available now, and I think that's really awesome. But the other thing that's really neat is I have another book that I wrote, and this one is fiction, and it's not necessarily related to the paranormal stuff, except that some of the stories that are in here, because when I originally wrote this book, it was short. It started out as short stories, but as I progressed on and started doing more of the stories, they all kind of connected together. But the interesting thing is a lot of the stories that are in Under the Surface are actually inspired by things that happen to the team on investigations, experiences that we had, some ideas that we came up with, just kind of modes of thinking the way it went. And, so it's kind of related to NTParanormal in that respect, that some of those experiences are in here, but it's totally a fictional book. I kind of classify it as horror, but a lot of the reviews I'm getting are saying it's a really good like mystery thriller, because I guess towards the end it kind of turns into like a detective novel. I don't know, but I'm really proud of this. And actually this has just released as an audiobook as well. Of course, it's available in paperback. It's, on Kindle, but now it's available on Audible, iTunes, and Amazon as well. And it's narrated by a woman named Chelsea Carpenter, who is fantastic. Like, she had the exact delivery that was needed for this book, because unlike the other one, there's a lot of characters to this book. So she does different accents, different voices, and she really like draws you in and brings you in. The cool thing is so Kelly McCormick, who narrated After Dark, she's actually going to be on the podcast on August 23rd, and we're going to interview her about the process of her narrating and recording this book for us, and her thoughts as a reader of what she thought in the cases that are presented therein. And then she also told me, when I was talking to her the other day about getting her on the show to do that interview, she told me that the studio that she actually does her voice recordings in is actually active, paranormally active. And she invited us out to do an investigation out there, which I think would be really awesome. It's about a 7.5 hour drive from where I'm at, though, because she's located in Arkansas. or that's where the studio, she's located in Arkansas and the studio is located in Arkansas. So, we'll have to plan out a little bit for that, but I think it'd be really interesting that we're going to do an investigation at the place that our book was recorded. That kind of blows my mind. I just think it's a really interesting idea, to do that. And then Monday, I don't think it's going to be live. I think it's more of a pre-recorded thing that she does. But Chelsea, the lady who, the fantastic narrator that narrated Under the Surface for me, she's actually going to be doing, I'm going to be doing an interview on her channel about the book. She wants to interview me as the author, things like that, which hopefully that'll help with promotions and things. But if you guys, as fans of NT Paranormal, haven't picked up the books, know that, all profit that from the After Dark book goes straight back into our research. Like it's basically the same as donating money to our EEG fund that we just started up. We don't make a whole lot off of it. I think it's like $2 a paperback. I mean, it's something ridiculously small, but we enjoy getting the book out there. I really feel like there's good information in there. I really like that people are enjoying it and relating to it, and then they'll read it and then they'll write back and tell me their stories. And it's been really amazing after getting the book out and having something to discuss with people at the different live conventions that we go to, the different speaking events and stuff like that, having talking points in there. I'm just really proud of the work that my team did to help me get that done. I mean, it was a team effort, and I'm just really proud of it. But like I said, Kelly McCormick's going to be on the show August 23rd, which is my birthday, by the way. So that's going to be a really cool birthday present. And then after I get more details, after I've done the interview with Chelsea Carpenter tomorrow, I'll probably put something out there about, when that interview is going to go up, and we'll probably use that as like promotional stuff. I'm super excited about the books. I mean, we worked really hard on that. I worked really hard on my stuff. I'm working on my next book now, which is another fiction book, something I want to get finished up. So we haven't done a whole lot of like straight cases lately, which kind of sucks. I mean, ideally I would like to work on our research like every weekend. That would be great. Either a new case or working the same case, and going back and revisiting and collecting data. But the truth is just the way things have been moving. We have a lot of events coming up. October is just crazy. If anybody on here who's a paranormal investigator that's kind of public, like we are, where we do like a podcast or we kind of do a show or whatever, like you're not just doing it for yourself, like you have a team, will tell you October is crazy busy, not because paranormal activity is ramped up, but because there's so many like Halloween events, and there's speaking events and conventions, and it's just the last half of the year is just convention season. And so we always end up getting kind of crazy busy because we have these paranormal expos that we're going to do. And there's people that want to do like ghost tours, and we help out with like some of that stuff too, with some people that we've developed like a professional relationship with. And so we've kind of been getting ready for that, and we've been focusing a lot on this actual podcast, which we have done amazingly well at, because we used to shoot for doing just one podcast a month, and we would fail at it miserably. Now we're to the point where we're doing a podcast every single week without fail, getting it out there. And on top of that, we're doing it live these days, so you guys can ask questions. Of course, I'm not seeing a whole lot of people actually jump in here right now, but if you guys jumped on and wanted to ask me questions about the book or any of our upcoming appearances, things like that, I'd be answering that stuff right now, because I didn't really come into this particular episode with a main topic on my mind. I just wanted to kind of chit chat with you guys. But we've had a lot of things going on that we've been focusing on that have actually pulled us away from, doing our live investigations and our research. But I'm happy to say we're going to be getting back into that pretty soon. And I'm really excited about some of the investigations that we have coming up. I'm really excited about some of the new videos that we're planning on doing, because we're completely changing the way we're doing everything. Oh, and I see a bunch of the likes and stuff come up. Facebook has been having problems all day today. So if you guys are commenting, I'm totally not seeing your comments right now. I wish I was. Like right now it says there's only 3 comments on the board and that nobody's watching, but I'm seeing like a whole bunch of thumbs up and likes and stuff. So I really appreciate that. I'm sorry if I'm missing your questions. After the live feed, I'll definitely try to go back through and read all your questions and comments and things like that and try to respond. If I'm missing it, let me try clicking this. See, no, it's not really doing anything. I'm not even streaming the way I normally would. I don't know why Facebook's being so wonky today. It's really frustrating. But I mean, back to what I was saying is, we've got investigations lined up that we're going to do, we need to do, but they're kind of time sensitive. So they're scheduled a little ways out. We're planning on doing a lot of really cool things with our videos, because we're absolutely moving away from the reality show live formula that is just tired and old. Like, now that the past couple of years have been really crazy, because we started out just doing it for fun, and then we got to a point where we were really interested in the research, and then we realized we were actually doing something different than everybody else with our research. We were really getting into it. We were really looking at our theories and just tightening the nuts and bolts down on it. And just one day I kind of realized we don't need to be doing the same types of videos that the other groups do. We need to do something different. We need to present our evidence our research in just a completely different light, because everybody likes Ghost Adventures and Ghost Hunters International and all the shows. I mean, yeah, they're entertaining, but they're viewed as reality shows. They're watched in that manner. Nobody is watching that and pulling away any like educational value from it. Nobody looks at that and says, oh, these guys are bringing up really good theories, really good points. They're really pushing the boundaries. Nobody's doing that. It's just kind of the same reality TV that everybody's addicted to. But the type of show that I watch, on the weekends, I watch documentaries. I really like anything that's science-based, educational sort of thing, but done in an entertaining manner. I'm not talking like 1980s documentaries. I'm talking like a lot of the new stuff that comes out. And so I got to thinking that if we're doing credible research, then really we should be making credible media, entertainment. And I still want that entertainment value there. I want people to flock to it and watch it, but I want them to feel like they're getting something out of it. I would much rather have one documentary come out a year about serious, realistic investigation with real results, whether we show that we actually found something paranormal or we completely disprove everything. It's not about the result, but it's showing how we get there. It's showing an honest investigation through the eyes of honest investigators, and really just putting it out there regardless what the results actually are, and presenting in a manner that can be taken seriously. Like I watch shows about physics, astronomy, aliens, just a variety of topics, not just paranormal things and conspiracies and things like that, but legitimate shows that are put out there to educate you. But it's presented as a very serious, lengthy documentary. It's not something you can just break down in 30 minutes and show the highlights. It's interviews, it's history, it's getting into the nuts and bolts of exactly what the experiments are and what we're doing. And that's what I want to put out there. I want to put out meaningful material, not just another reality show that is not really all that scary. You know, I'm not looking for the jump scare. I'm looking for meaningful viewership. And so that's the direction that we're going. And one of the things that's a part of that is we've already done a lot of investigations and come to conclusion of a lot of these places. But the way we filmed that content was completely contrary to what we're actually trying to put out there. And it was very derivative of what everybody else does. And so a lot of those investigations, we're going to go back and revisit it. And we may go back and do additional investigations to make sure of our data, to get new footage, maybe new evidence, things like that, based on the things we've learned over the years. But we're going to take all those past investigations, boil them down into something substantial, and try to do multiple documentaries about locations or sets of locations or different cases we've worked on, and represent that in a more meaningful way. So while it will rehash a lot of evidence that we've already presented, we've already found a lot of things that we've already disproved and gone past in our careers as paranormal investigators, it's going to be presented in a new, more meaningful way that's more accessible, more understandable, and more in depth. Actually, you know, it's almost like watching a movie that you really, really love and then getting the Blu-ray and then watching the director commentary on it. It puts everything in a completely different perspective. And that's what we plan to do with a lot of our old investigations. And then we have a few investigations that we did that were really great. And we were just on the brink of putting out a video of like what we normally do. But what we decided is I would hold off on doing that because we had kind of come to the conclusion that we were going to do everything in this new light. So we've been holding back, putting off, reevaluating what we actually have evidence-wise, what we actually have footage-wise. We plan to go back and do some interviews, like the old Granbury Jail Museum. This is one we've been talking about for a while. And I still have not been through every bit of evidence that I would normally go through before putting out an episode. But after I go through all that, we plan on going back to that location just to film post-investigation interviews with all the team members that were involved with it, which is something we never did before. We never went back to the location and kind of pointed out, oh, this happened over here. This is what happened to me. This is what I experienced. This is what I felt. We're going to go back and do interviews with the people that work there, the curator and the people that allowed us to come in. We're also, Brandy Herr also agreed to do an interview with me. She's the one that actually runs the Granbury Haunts and Legends tour that's in the area. She's the one that got us connected with that location in the first place. And she's got stories about when her and her private group went in there and did some things. And she, you know, we're also going to get some footage of her tour and things like that. I've also discussed doing a podcast with her. She runs a Halloween store that's open year round right there off of the square. And we're actually going to do a podcast from her store. So we have all these really interesting things that we want to do, and they're just time consuming. They take a long time to put out there. And even though we're taking longer in between videos we're putting out and projects we're putting out, I think in the end, everybody's going to enjoy them more. They're going to take more out of them. They're going to get more substance out of it because we have learned how to put more substance in what we're doing to be more honest with it. Okay, I am actually seeing just a few comments actually show up on my thing. I don't know if this is a thing, but basically the only comment that's showing up is Catherine is telling me that she likes my haircut. Thank you. I appreciate that. I got it cut like 3 or 4 days ago, something like that. I'm trying to grow it back out. I had it shaved a little while ago because summer in Texas is freaking hot. And, with the world plummeting into global warming, it has just got worse. So a couple of months ago, I shaved my head all the way down to the skin, and I'm just now getting my hair back. But I am trying to grow out a luscious beard, which is just getting grayer and grayer and grayer. And my birthday's here in a couple of weeks, so it's just a reminder of how old I'm getting. But I appreciate that. The haircut. This is my ghost hunting haircut, I guess. I don't know. Man, that really threw me off topic talking about my hair. This is riveting radio, guys. But I'm really proud of the research we've done up to this point. And we have taken most of this year off from doing active investigations, but that doesn't mean our research has stopped. Like we have been going over all our old cases, all our old data, reviewing things just for this podcast in general to kind of redevelop our ideas, to take a step back. I mean, that's kind of how we came up with this idea that, we want to purchase an EEG and start doing tests on, okay, what parts of the brain light up when certain experiences happen? Is that going to be the same in a paranormal study? We plan on doing experiments with the Gansfield effect. I've actually started building some devices to kind of monitor that study, and then also like sensory deprivation, which is the opposite of the Gansfield effect. We have a lot of lab for lack of a better word, we have a lot of lab experiments that we want to do, and not for the simple fact that we want to compare those results as a control to the things that we've experienced out in the field. I mean, because as skeptical as we are, we joke around all day, but we're a really skeptical group only because we take facts for facts. It's not because we want to discredit anybody or say that paranormal stuff isn't a thing, because at the end of the day, everybody in my group, even the most skeptical of us, have had experiences, very profound experiences that we can't explain, even with all the science, all the toys, all the instrumentation. There is just no current credible explanation for a lot of it. So what we want to do is maybe duplicate those things in a controlled environment. And if we can duplicate those things in a controlled environment, then we can compare that data and then decide, okay, is this really a thing or is it not a thing? Is it more so than that? I am getting some of y'all's comments now. Oh, yes, we're definitely, I talked to the group, Kelly. Kelly is in the comments. Kelly is the narrator for After Dark. So, I'm really glad to see that you joined. I'm really excited to do the interview with her later. But I talked to the group. We're definitely going to find a way to come to Arkansas. We just have to figure out how to schedule that. But I'm super excited about doing that particular investigation. The idea of investigating the place where our book was recorded is just like, it's total full circle. It's really cool. And we really, really like the commercial type locations. I mean, we love doing the residential investigations, but being able to go onto like a commercial type property that's not like somebody's house and it's not all just personal experiences, and stay the night in those locations is just such a cool opportunity. I mean, we've stayed the night in like a historical jail. We've stayed the night in historical museums, things like that. And even if we, at the end of our paranormal careers, we never actually prove anything, man, just the experiences alone makes it worth it. I mean, how many people can say, well, I stayed the night in an abandoned asylum? You know, those things are really cool. And so, you know, coming to the studio in Arkansas is just going to be another thing to just check off the list. There's we want to do the Lavaca County Jail. There's a bunch of hotels we've actually been invited to do, but you know, the further and further we get away from Fort Worth, and that's another thing that, you know, we need to kind of talk about as a topic on future podcasts is, you know, for a lot of the other investigators out there who are either just getting started or, you know, they're not as into it as we are, is we wanted to do an episode on like how to function as a team, you know, how to budget, how to do your budget is like an investigation team, you know, how to get out there and some of the practicalities of it that nobody talks about. Because I mean, the thing is like equipment is really expensive, especially if you're buying things that are, you know, designed for paranormal investigation. I know not everybody's a scientist like us. A lot of you guys are going to want to go out there and just use an SB7 spirit box and an Ovilus and things like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're a weekend ghost hunter and you're not trying to get published in a scientific journal, by all means do that stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. I actually say in the book that modern day ghost hunting is akin to myth building. That's fine. Telling stories is great. Believing in something and just enjoying the experience of it is great. We actually do that too. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's something that we kind of do off the books. You guys don't see a whole lot of the ghost hunting that we still do. You know, because what we put out here online and videos and things like that is the legitimate research that we do. But we still go out and just have a good time and try to scare ourselves for the heck of it. But kind of back to what I was saying is, I mean, I know as a viewer or a listener, if you just listen to the podcast or whatever, it can be frustrating when there's not a whole lot of new content out there. And that's kind of why I shifted so much focus to doing this podcast, is because I wanted content out there to keep you guys engaged while we build a better, more meaningful show. Or I don't even want to call it a show, because I feel like I'm doing movies, because I don't want to do 30-minute episodes anymore. I want to do, you know, hour and a half long documentaries, or maybe depending on how it develops, maybe like a whole season of hour-long episodes that develop, you know, over different locations. I mean, there's so much stuff that's still kind of up in the air, but I do know that we've spent so much time going back over our old research, coming up with new research, and we really haven't hit a whole lot of new places, even though we have them lined up. But I feel like in the end, it'll be worth it, because with all the work that we're putting in, all the ideas that we're doing, all the pushing we're doing to ourselves, we're going to have more meaningful content out there. And at the end of the day, we're going to be the group that actually gets taken seriously by people outside the paranormal community. And I mean, there are a lot of great paranormal investigators out there. There are a lot of great ghost hunters out there. There are a lot of great people that do great documentaries and TV shows and things like that. That's not what I'm saying. Those people are taken seriously by other members of the paranormal community. My goal is to be taken seriously by everyone, one way or the other, a force to be reckoned with, at least on the subject of paranormal research. I want people outside the field of paranormal research to take a look at what we do and say, that is a fair assessment of that. Even though I may not agree with all the conclusions, or I still have my doubts about some of the evidence that they gathered, I don't want them to look at it and say, well, their conclusions are completely wrong because they're idiots. They don't actually do credible research. I want them to look and say, well, while some of the controls and stuff like that are flawed, like these guys are really legitimate. They're not faking anything. And they definitely understand the concept of controls in their experiments and things like that. And I want people in the paranormal community to look at us and respect us and say, okay, they have gone to such great lengths to filter out all the noise and just be completely even. And they didn't discredit every single thing by just disproving it, but what they did is they put everything on an even footing so that the subject can be taken seriously. And I think that's the most important thing is, we, like I said before, we have a ton of fun with it. We'll just go out there and goof off and try to scare each other. But the subject matter, what we're doing, the research, we've always taken the research seriously, even if we're not taking ourselves seriously, if that makes any sense at all. Great equals distinguished. I am very not distinguished, ma'am. Loving the interviews, gives more insight into the group and the work you do. I have really enjoyed doing more interviews on the podcast, actually, and that's why I've been trying to line up more of these guest appearances. But honestly, that's because I don't find myself interesting enough. Like I'm doing this show solo, and I feel like I've kind of been droning on the whole time just to kind of fill time. And hopefully you guys enjoy it, but I feel like I lose a lot of the silliness, a lot of the banner, a lot of the back and forth if I don't have somebody to interact with. If I don't like coming into it without a topic like I did this time. I kind of rolled the dice, and I'm just kind of going with it. I hope it's going good, actually. But I have actually really enjoyed the interviews. I've tried to pick people so far that are, not just, obviously we've interviewed people within our own team to kind of open up the discussion, to show how we're different from each other, because that's a big part of our group, the fact that we're diverse. We come from different backgrounds of belief. We come from different backgrounds and modes of thinking about the paranormal. And we definitely have different strengths in our education. So I wanted to highlight that. But like with Rose coming on Saturday, with the interview we did with Patrick T. Chrissy, when I did the interview with Eric from the old Lethbridge paranormal team in Canada, I was trying to make sure that we were talking to people that are different enough from the way we do things, and different enough from our perspective. The challenge is to try to interview them and be even keel about it, because it would be so easy just to bring somebody on that thinks differently than we do and just eviscerate them. I want to get the opposite opinions out there and try to be an example to the rest of the community out there, that you can have an open discussion about something, not agree on things, and still be civil to each other, because I think that's an art form that's been completely lost lately on not just paranormal topics, but a lot of different topics. And that's what I'm trying to do anyway. Hopefully we're succeeding. But so far, every guest that's come on has actually been really interesting and really entertaining to me. And so I've been really happy with that kind of format. So I definitely want to try to keep interviews going, having guests on, whether they're actually in studio or over Skype or Messenger or things like that. Actually, Catherine has watched pretty much almost every single podcast since we got back to doing podcasts, and I actually suggested to her that maybe she should come on as almost like a fan or a supporter or whatever, because she's also got a lot of really interesting paranormal stories that, you know, I've kind of talked to her through Messenger and in comments I've seen. She has a lot of experience as a I think she's in physical therapy, but from the medical perspective of it. And it's also just interesting to hear what the reaction is or the opinion is of other people about our particular brand of research, not just paranormal in general, but I like to get that live feedback about, okay, this is what we like about what you do, and this is what we don't like about what you do. You know, and the big consensus is, hey, we really like that you guys take it seriously, that, you know, there's absolutely no BS in there, but could you not crap on it so much? So that's kind of where we're at, is, you know, we're back to the thing is we're viewed by a lot of people as debunkers, not researchers, and that's absolutely not true. But, you know, we're not going to change everybody's mind about that, except, you know, one person at a time. Well, that's pretty rough. Kat says, I would love to see an experiment in a place everyone says is not haunted with the EEG, and a place that everyone says is haunted on a person who says they see ghosts. Compare the results. Super skeptic. Compare the results on a person who is an open mind but hasn't experienced much. Right, and that's actually that is the one of the main scopes of our EEG experiment that we have planned, in that we want to do a panel of people in a controlled environment with no stimuli at all, just sitting there asking questions, looking how the brain reacts normally. Then basically in a lab setting with stimuli, you know, maybe we'll scare them, or maybe have them watch like a scary video, things like that, and do different things to see how it responds. Then we want to take a panel of people and put them in locations that are supposedly haunted, and basically put them in rooms by themselves doing experiments to see if they experience paranormal activity. But we'll be able to timestamp that in at the points where they experience paranormal activity, compare those results to the control settings, and see if there's any difference. Like, and one of the things that made me think of that is it kind of goes back to the podcast we did on lycanthropy, and then there was another one on we briefly talked about infrasound a little bit. And the thing is the difference between somebody that suffers with actual clinical lycanthropy and somebody that's schizophrenic is the part of the brain that's affected. So a schizophrenic can think they're a werewolf, but they experience it differently. They're kind of nuts. Somebody that, and with the new medical classification for lycanthropy, people that think they're werewolves or shape changers, basically, a part of their brain lights up. They have experiences through a different part of their brain than what a schizophrenic would. And so their brain is literally telling their body that it's changing all the time. So they're actually not crazy. Their brain is sending their body that signal. Also, you know, we've talked about Sarah having chronic pain all the time. She has CRPS, and that's her nervous system, or that's her brain, the combination of her nervous system and brain telling her, hey, this part of your body is damaged, even though it's not. She's not crazy for having pain in her arm, but she's not imagining it either. And that's kind of the difference. So we kind of want to see what percentage of people that have paranormal experiences are the part of their brain is lighting up where they are misinterpreting data. Like a certain part of their brain is saying, hey, you're seeing this ghost, or hey, you're hearing this thing. But it's different than the parts of the brain that would originate in, say, like imagination. So that is actually going to be a very, very critical study. And then we also want to see how how the brains actually react to sensory deprivation and Gansfield experiment and things like that. So yeah, that is actually a huge part of that experiment, the overall scope of it, is more than just hooking somebody up to an EEG and watching how it goes. The other parts of the EEG is we also want to expose people to infrasound, and we also want to expose people to EMF and see how that affects brainwave activity. And also the EEG machine we're getting is also an ECG, so we will actually be able to monitor other parts of the vitals, so we can see like if the heart speeds up, which would maybe signify that adrenaline plays a role in some of these things. And then we can compare the effects of how the brain interprets infrasound and how the brain interprets EMF, or basically how the brainwaves are interrupted. And then when we put them in that supposedly paranormal environment, one way or the other, we can see if the brain reacts the same way to those factors. So there's a lot of different variables that we're going to be able to throw into just that particular experiment. On top of that, we're going forward with the psychological profiles. We have hand selected a number of tests that I've actually built a spreadsheet for it with plans to build like an online app for it. So when we go to locations and we're interviewing people, they'll be able to get on the laptop and basically take this test that's going to build a psychological profile on there for the bits of data that we're looking for. And we're also going to eventually open it up to online so that just anybody can, so you guys can basically sign up like anonymously with like a number, and you can take it, and then we can take a sample of like a large data sample of these profiles. And then based on whether people think they see paranormal activity or never see paranormal activity or kind of on the fence on it, we can kind of start to chart out what kind of people believe in this stuff or what kind of people experience. And if we can find trends in that data, then it sounds like when you talk about the study in that format, it sounds like we're really trying to disprove paranormal activity. But the thing is that data could actually, what it could do is reveal that if paranormal activity does in fact exist, right? We may not be able to physically prove that the paranormal activity exists, but we can maybe find evidence to suggest it does. But what the psychological and the EEG and the lab data could prove is that we could maybe identify people that if paranormal activity exists, what types of people are susceptible to actually identifying it. That would actually be a huge step. That would almost be like a test that confirms people could actually be psychic or sensitive or mediums or whatever, in a way. Not to that extent, of course, but the data could intrinsically be there. And so that's just something that I'm really enamored with trying to prove. And by the way, we've got 2 donations on the EEG fundraiser, which I appreciate. Kat was one of them, and Jennifer also donated to that fund, and I really appreciate those. We got a long way to go, and like I said in the video on that, even if we don't meet the goal on that, eventually I'm buying an EEG, even if I've got to do it out of pocket, which I save back pennies every day. Our group members save back pennies every day, and just the donations are just going to make it to where we can get to that goal faster and get to that research and data a lot quicker. But one way or the other, we're going to get there at some point. And then once we get that data and we've looked at it for about 6 months, we'll write a book about it, a journal about it, or we'll make a complete documentary about it, depending on what we find. I'm really excited about that. The mono wavelength photography experiment that we do, which is different than every other group out there. It's such a simple experiment, but it basically disproves 99.9% of all orbs out there, if not 100%, because we've only got the one picture. But even that experiment has improved since we put Donald on the team and he's become our photographer. I've always been a decent photographer, but that's not my trade. Allie's a good photographer, but she knows what she learned just from doing it as a hobbyist and what she learned in her forensics courses, which that was centered around a completely different type of science. It was for documenting the area. It wasn't necessarily to document different wavelengths of light, right? Having Donald on the team and watching how he works and the different types of equipment he takes pictures with, because he messes with shutter speeds, exposures, apertures, different types of focus, different types of lighting. It made me think in different terms of that experiment. And so I've actually already figured out how I want to improve upon that experiment and make it A, more accurate, and B, to where it can reproduce more types of the photos that get sent to me a lot, with like streaks and stuff like that. So I'm always proud of our group because we're constantly evolving. We're constantly trying to do something different. And I'm really excited for what the future holds, even though right now it seems like a lot of that is kind of far off. But it's because we're doing a lot of getting our ducks in a row and putting everything together and reevaluating, who we are and what we are as a team and what we're actually trying to prove, disprove, research, things like that. But along the way, the whole thing has just been a complete blast. And when I think about going from that initial experience I had to going on ghost hunts with Sarah because, Allie worked over the weekend and just no one was available to hang out with, we kind of got together and decided that this was what we wanted to do just for fun as friends, and then it snowballed from there and people started paying attention. So I'm really grateful that happened because I have this new, really awesome hobby that's pretty much taken over and is almost a second full-time job for me. And of course it inspired me to go forward and write, so the first book that I actually finished was the NTParanormal book, which was which was totally weird for me. And then that inspired me to finish, one of my fiction stories. And now I'm working on the next book and I've got ideas for 4 other books after that. So, and now I do the podcast and the live streaming, and it's been really cool. The journey up to this point, and I just really like the whole thing, and I really appreciate everybody's support. So, like I said, this is going to be a 2 podcast week because Saturday we are doing another episode. I think Allie's going to be there, but I know for sure it's going to be me and Sarah, and then Rose Domain of Harvest Rose Witchery. And you can go check her out at harvestrosewitchery.com if you need any spells done for you. She's basically a witch for hire. She does removals, she does readings, she'll do spells for you, all kinds of things like that. And she's really kooky and fun to talk to. We like just hanging out. We like bantering with her because we basically pick on her for being a witch, and she basically picks on us for being nerds that don't believe in magic. So, it's a very mutual sort of non-productive relationship, but we have a lot of fun. But she agreed to come in. She's going to do readings. And like I said at the beginning of the episode, the way we're going to work that is I'm going to have a temporary number set up that you can text, and basically you can text your name so I know you want to be put into the queue for a reading, and then I'll go in order, and basically I'll call you back live on the show, and you'll be able to have if you want to do video chat, you can do video chat. If you just want to do audio, you'll be able to just do audio like a regular phone call, and you'll be able to do a face-to-face with Rose, get a free reading and ask a couple of questions to get advice, things like that. And she's going to tell us all about what it's like to be a witch, how she became a witch, and probably tell us a lot of crazy stories about crazy clients wanting different things done. So, I think it should be a lot of fun. And so we'll be doing that Saturday, 7 o'clock. So we'll have 2 shows this week. So, you know, you won't be stuck with just my ugly mug for the week. And then I don't remember what the show is after that, but we've got a lot of we sat down as a group and kind of banged out the next 50 shows, show topics. I know what the show after next Saturday, that is going to be the debate on exorcism. It's going to be a moderated debate. Whole team's going to be here. That one's going to be nuts because they're forcing me to debate for the side of exorcism and demonic possession are real. And so, as dedicated as I am, I did a whole bunch of research. I've watched a whole lot of supposedly real exorcism videos. And I actually learned a bunch of things I didn't already know about exorcisms, and not just of the Catholic faith. And it turns out there is actually some compelling evidence out there that I'm going to have to bring up and put as part of my arsenal. I don't know. I don't know that I'm entirely convinced, but I am more convinced than I was when I first started doing the research. So it should be an interesting show, and I have problems sleeping at night now. So that's going to be really, really interesting, actually. And that'll be one of the few times that I'll actually have the whole team in the room. Well, I guess not the whole team. It'll be me, Allie, Kristen, Sarah, and then we actually have a third party coming in. He was in one of our videos. Zach Wakeman is actually going to be on the panel arguing against me. So that's going to be a really interesting episode, and I'm going to be way out of my comfort zone. So you guys should watch it just for that entertainment value right there, because I'm going to be arguing for something that I would normally be arguing against. So, you know, debate in action. Woo, go us. So anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to basically plug the books, which I'm going to do again. If you go on Amazon.com, Amazon.com/author/Ashton Rogers, you can actually get to all my writing, including these 2 books, After Dark, Paranormal Investigations, and Under the Surface, a collective of stories to haunt your dreams. You can get paperback. You can get the Kindle versions there on Amazon. They are now actually available in like actual bookstores now. I actually saw After Dark Paranormal Investigations on the Barnes & Noble website the other day, which was really bizarre. But importantly, these are now available as audiobooks now through Audible. You can also get them on iTunes, and Audible and Amazon are the same company. But if you go to Amazon, the Audible version is actually linked to that. Unfortunately, you can't get them as like disc media yet. They have to sell a lot better before they will invest into offering it as physical media. But the digital copies are, I mean, who's not streaming? I don't know anybody actually buying CDs anymore besides like my grandparents. So I'm really excited about that. And and of course, you know, we'll be interviewing her soon, but a super big thanks to Kelly McCormick for narrating the After Dark book. And of course to Chelsea Carpenter for narrating my Under the Surface book. So anyway, I'll see you guys Saturday, and everybody have a great Friday until then. So later, guys.